You can scream and shout with all your might.
Scream, shout, whine, cry, piss, and moan like a little girl.
Dig in your heels and hold on tight.
Shove your opinion up your ass and superglue your butt cheeks together.
Either you are wrong or I am right.
Do not forget the ever-present third possibility. You are wrong and I am right. Welcome to another edition of Stating the Obvious. I have returned. I know many of you out there were happy about my absence. Coffee. Many of you out there were, of course, saddened by my absence, but you know, it was the summer. And as much as I enjoy ranting and raving and stating the obvious and trying to explain this to you stupid people out there, there are more important things to do, like running and walking and biking and photography and chasing women and drinking too much coffee and staying up late. And all those other exciting things that do not involve being here in the studio with the computer. Although, one good thing about being in the studio is that I am accompanied by the lovely, the adorable, the Republican, but I haven't beat her up for that yet. Randy is in the control room. Good morning, Randy. Hi, sweetie. We are here consuming mass quantities of coffee. It is 5:30 in the morning. We would have been recording sooner, but of course, there's always a computer problem. Why? Because computers are evil. If any of you out there have ever seen the movie Time Bandits, you'll remember that in the movie, evil, who was intending to take over the world, was going to take over the world by mastering computers. And you know, I think it might be working. Computers are evil. God, I hate my computers. Every computer I have at home right now has some kind of malfunctioning problem with it. Hardware, software, both wear, everything wear. Trying to think, do we have any? So, it's been months. It's August. What's today, Randy? What's today? It's the 13th of August. I think the last time I recorded, other than the 9/11 commentary, which I'm not counting, was back in March. So, we have a backlog of material to cover. For those of you who may be tuning in for the first time, let me remind you. Wait, if you're tuning in for the first time, I can't remind you. For those of you tuning in for the first time, let me tell you, stating the obvious is not and has never been a discussion of current events. I don't care about current events. I talk about things that happened months, sometimes years, sometimes centuries ago, because here we talk about ideas. We don't talk about current events, okay? This is not fucking People magazine or the National Enquirer or the goddamn Evening News. We talk about things here that are actually important. And if something was important, 6 months ago, then it's still important today. In fact, this is one of my editing tactics. I look at it like this. If I can't talk about an event 6 months after the event happened and it be relevant and important, then it probably wasn't relevant and important when the event was happening. So the fact that I talk about things months after they've occurred is part of the process that filters out the bullshit and leaves the substance. Coffee. So this is Stating the Obvious. I am your host, Skippy. Stating the Obvious is brought to you by the Cynical Libertarian Society, located at 204eastsouth.com. The email address, if you want to contact Stating the Obvious, is STO. For those of you who vote Democrat, STO stands for Stating the Obvious. STO at 204eastsouth.com. Hold on while I make a modification there. Excellent. That's better. No, I was just getting too much feedback in my ear speakers. Can you do anything about that? Can you turn... Well, no, I want a little bit of... Yeah, see, that's too much. Can you modify that? Alright, everybody, hold on. Randy is attempting to adjust some levels. No, you need to use K-Vexor. Yep, No, do the master. Yeah, it's an output. Actually, I take that back. Use the master. There you go. That's better. Right? Yeah. That works. Excellent. Just leave that up. Okay. Let's get things started. This right here on the stack, I'm going to go ahead and do this because this is pretty funny. What? No. Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. We'll do that later. Beer with something extra. Something extra. I can't talk. See, I think it's too early in the morning. No, these advertisements just kill me. What does this say about our society? Beer with something extra. It's Budweiser with caffeine and ginseng. Beer with caffeine in it. What the fuck is wrong with you people? Who drinks beer that has caffeine in it? Randy's saying people who drink beer for breakfast. Well, I drink beer for breakfast. I frequently have beer for breakfast, but I don't want caffeine in it. That's disgusting. Beer for breakfast. Great. Alright. This is a editorial in the Rocky Mountain Bullhorn, written by Duncan Phillip. It says here on his little byline, he's an active participant in the local Libertarian Party. For those of you who may not be aware of this yet, the Cynical Libertarian Society has a libertarian slant of view on things. I know I have to explain that for those of you who vote Democrat. This is from the Rocky Mountain Bullhorn. This is a editorial concerning what was that chick's name? Samantha Spady affair. For those of you not up on it, Samantha Spady drank a bunch of booze and killed herself from alcohol poisoning. And of course, the local government, the CSU government, and everybody else is trying to figure out how they can make Samantha Spady's drinking herself to death anybody's fault and everybody's fault, except, of course, for Samantha Spady's fault, because, as we know, nobody is responsible for anything that they ever do in their life. Everything is either the fault of evil Republicans or evil Democrats. Duncan Phillip, and I'm pretty much going to read this entire editorial. And here's another thing for those of you who may be joining for the first time. This is just a little primer on how we do things here. I tend to read a lot. And the reason I read a lot is not because I'm trying to steal other people's material. It's because I'm talking about their material and either agreeing or disagreeing with them. And unlike other people out there, like newspapers and the major media, I don't have to reduce my quotes to the smallest soundbite possible in order to take things out of context. The reason I read so much is because I am keeping things in their context, because you see, the media and these other people take people out of context in order to lie about what they're saying, because the media is wrong. I'm right. I'm always right. I have always been right. I will always be right. And therefore, I don't need to take people out of context in order to embarrass and humiliate them. I let them embarrass and humiliate themselves by putting them in context. That was a long-winded explanation. Coffee. Duncan Phillips editorial, all for show. It says here, the liquor task. So, after Spady died, CSU put together a liquor task force to examine why she died, because she drank something like, 18 glasses of alcohol, the equivalent of 18 glasses of alcohol in 6 hours or some crap. Anyway, she died from alcohol poisoning. But when you're a college and you have a PhD and you're, you're not smart enough to figure these things out. So they had to put together a liquor task force to investigate and examine and assign the blame to somebody other than Samantha Spady. Here we go. This liquor task force appears to be nothing more than a dog and pony show put forth by Colorado State University's President Larry Pinley and company to appease the public at large. I mean, who really killed Samantha Spady, the 19-year-old CSU student who was found dead in a fraternity house in September? Well, she did. Liquor stores and bars didn't sell her the liquor that she used to drink herself to death, so why should they be punished for the act of one person? In addition, none of these establishments were to blame for the recent CSU riots. Now, he makes here important distinctions that the average one of you idiots out there cannot grasp. What this liquor task force is attempting to do is blame liquor stores for Samantha Spady drinking herself to death. First of all, she got the liquor that she used to drink herself to death from parties and from her friends, not from the liquor store. Second of all, nobody at the liquor store held her down and forced the alcohol down her throat. She did this on her own. And as he points out, the CSU riots, for those of you not around here, the CSU students like to riot. In fact, they'll be coming back to school soon. School starts on August, 22nd, Randy? So we're guaranteed to have at least one more riot somewhere in that range of time, because the kids come back, and they're all stupid, and they riot. And not only that, let's point out, too, that she was 19 years old. Now, remember, it's illegal in America to drink alcohol unless you're 21 or older. So the question is, if making laws against things like alcohol abuse or, underage drinking or whatever, if these laws actually worked, she would be alive, because she's only 19. She shouldn't have been drinking anyhow. So the solutions here, of course, are to make more laws against liquor stores, because that will save 19-year-old kids from drinking themselves to death. Yet, it's already against the law for 19-year-old kids to drink in the first place. So, if the laws worked, Samantha Spady wouldn't be dead. She is dead. Obviously, laws don't work. So what's the solution if you're an idiot? Well, let's make more laws that aren't going to work. Let me continue reading. So why, then, is the Liquor Task Force even discussing increasing regulation of bars and liquor stores around the entire state of Colorado? This is a good point. Why is the CSU Liquor Task Force concerned with increasing regulation of bars and liquor stores all over the entire state? This is an example of the typical overreaction that you stupid people out there have to everything that fucking happens. One dumbass, stupid 19-year-old bitch drinks herself to death, and we act like this is a crisis. We're going to create whole scores of laws and regulations for bars and liquor stores all over the entire state because of one stupid bitch. If one stupid bitch trips and falls down a stairway, you people would be out there trying to ban stairways. I continue reading. Why are these businesses being used as a scapegoat? And if that's the case, why is there no talk of shuttering the Budweiser plant located here in Fort Collins? Well, simple, because the Budweiser plant pays taxes and probably some kickback to the local politicians. Or, since you people have to learn also to tell the difference in my tone of voice between when I'm reading and when I'm doing commentary. Or, since university officials obviously, I really should turn on the light in here, Randy. But it's early. I don't want to turn on it. Do these overheads go any brighter without going super bright? Well, flip. That's better. That's a little better. Thanks. I'm sitting here in the semi-dark. It's too early in the morning for bright light. Coffee. Alright, this has nothing to do with Samantha Spady. I'm getting back to it. Or, since university officials obviously believe that evil booze is to blame, then why not start by closing down all the breweries here in Colorado? And see, this is a good point. CSU and their task force are making this huge to-do out of blaming all of this on demon alcohol. Yet, Okay, and they want to regulate the bars, they want to regulate the liquor stores, but you notice they're just not getting rid of the alcohol in the first place. Not practical? Apparently it's okay for the big breweries to make a profit, but not for small business owners. And that's the point. Budweiser makes a ton of money. But by God, we've got to shut down those liquor stores. We've got to shut down the bars. And if you shut down the bars and the liquor stores, then who the fuck is going to buy Budweiser? How about... And this is my favorite part. Because before I read this, I've been saying this, I'm going to say this again now. Everybody's looking for somebody to blame in the whole Samantha Spady issue, other than her, of course. I'm going to put this out there. If we're going to make all this effort to make sure that we don't blame her for her own actions, then there's only one other entity that can be held responsible for Samantha Spady drinking herself to death. That is CSU. If it was not for Colorado State University, Samantha Spady would not have been in Fort Collins. She would not have known the people who gave her the alcohol that she drank and killed herself, and she would not have been anywhere around here doing the activities she did that night that led to her death. Colorado State University, more than any other individual or organization, other than herself of course, is to blame for her being a dead stupid bitch instead of a living stupid bitch. And if CSU really cares so goddamn much, CSU would shut itself down before it murders any more stupid 19-year-olds. Now, let me continue reading. How about shutting down CSU, or at least regulating it in the same manner that the task force is planning for bars and liquor stores? If the students are the real problem, according to the local cops who sit on the board, the problem will be solved if we shut down the campus. Exactly. If you shut down CSU, there's no more students here. If there's no more students, you cannot, by definition, have students getting drunk and killing themselves, because there's not any more students. This is not complicated, unless, of course, you're stupid. And most of you out there apparently are. Police close bars when they become a problem. Why not do the same with a major university? And Duncan makes a good point here. If a bar has a bunch of patrons causing problems, the police will come down there and shut it down. Okay, we got CSU. The CSU students riot. They burn things in the street. Let's shut the fucking CSU down. Or maybe we could regulate the number of students who are allowed to attend CSU. But wait, then all of the employees and many of those who sit on the board would be out of a job. The largest socialist state-sponsored employer in the country would have to lay off thousands of its tax-consuming workers. And we can't have that, can we? I could have almost written this editorial myself. This guy's great. Better to have liquor store and bar owners lay off workers who actually produce wealth and revenue than to lay off government workers who produce nothing but high taxes that go to feed them. And let me, as a disclaimer here, point out that I work at CSU, and so I know about the productivity of the average CSU/state employee. Let me tell you something. That's some low productivity. Most of the people I work with are excruciatingly lazy and stupid and produce virtually nothing. Trust me, the average liquor store employee, the average bar employee adds far more value to the economy of this country than any son of a bitch I work with at CSU. I continue reading. How about a law that would forbid CSU from advertising itself and its low tuition rates? Because remember, part of the evil of alcohol is alcohol advertising. This is me talking. So, if advertising for alcohol makes people drink themselves to death, doesn't advertising for college make people go to colleges where they have the opportunity to drink themselves to death? So, he's right. If we're going to put restrictions on alcohol advertising, shouldn't we also put restrictions on college advertising? I continue reading. One board member wants to outlaw the right of bars and liquor stores to advertise their happy hours and 2-for-1 specials. This, of course, would be a violation of their right to free speech. But hey, don't let a little thing like the First Amendment get... Excuse me again. I'm clearing my throat. Excuse me. But hey, don't let a little thing like the First Amendment get in the way of the university's so-called right to make a buck and to regulate the private sector out of businesses. What? Is that a sentence? Let me read that again. But hey, don't let a little thing like the First Amendment get in the way of the university's so-called right to make a buck and regulate the private sector out of business rather than regulate themselves. Admit it, folks, this task force is nothing more than a show for the sole purpose of appeasing the media and averting public pressure. Totally true. Parents around the nation who watch the news have seen what has been going on at CSU as of late. They probably won't be sending their little darlings to CSU anytime too soon. This equates into a loss in revenue for the university and for the city of Fort Collins. I see no real need for this task force to exist. I suggest this board be shut down as to avoid any further waste of tax dollars and the unneeded regulation of law-abiding small business owners. The problem is not the evil booze, but rather it is the individual who decides to riot or drink themselves to death. And there is no way anyone can outlaw stupidity. And this is true because if we outlawed stupidity, most of you out there would have to be euthanized. Or imprisoned, something. I don't know what we'd do with you, but we would be overflowing with criminals if stupidity was illegal. Recovery, sort of. What is this? Coffee. Also, for those of you who haven't listened to Stating the Obvious before, I'll just take a moment to point out that I don't typically write notes. Typically, this is another advantage of always being right and knowing what the hell you're talking about. You don't have to read scripts. You don't have to write notes. Oh, but you do have to stretch. Oh, that's better. I missed yoga class yesterday because yoga class was canceled. I was mad. I got to the gym and no yoga class. Oh, I was not happy. Joseph Rouse here. Joseph is the publisher of the Rocky Mountain Bullhorn. He has a column here entitled Recovery, Sort of. Remember, folks, we're going back in time here. This is not too long after the election. The election where John Kerry did the impossible and lost to one of the shittiest presidents this country has ever seen. I mean, it's one thing to get your ass kicked in a presidential election, but to get your ass kicked by George Bush Jr. W. Wait, is he? Yeah, he's W. The other one is... Yeah, H. H is a senior. I can't tell them apart. They're both idiots. To lose to George W. I mean, when Mondale and Carter, when they lost to Ronald Reagan, okay, at least you could say, well, I lost to Ronald Reagan. The great communicator, a man who had real ideas, even though he didn't implement a lot of them. Well, he didn't implement most of them. But, yeah, I mean, at least you could, saying I lost to Ronald Reagan is not that much of it's not something to be ashamed of. Even losing to Bill Clinton, I mean, I didn't like Bill Clinton, but Bill Clinton was like the consummate politician. I mean, you could say, well, I lost to Bill Clinton, and people are going to look at you and say, well, man, you're a total loser. Yeah, but to have to spend the rest of your life walking around saying, I lost to George W. Bush. That's humiliating. Can you imagine telling your grandkids, I lost to George W. Bush, they're going to be laughing at him? If I was Kerry, I would kill myself. I mean, there are some public humiliations that cannot be recovered from. Joseph, who is the publisher of Rocky Mountain Bullhorn and a communist, writes, It's been a week since the voters dealt me the devastating blow of re-electing George W. Bush, and I am just beginning to recover. I no longer feel like a grandparent died. I can endure limited exposure to the news, and I'm becoming reacquainted with feelings like hope and happiness. Now, this is what kills me about Democrats, and this is why it's so much easier for me to coexist with Republicans, like the lovely and adorable Randy, who's over there in the control room, than it is with Democrats. Because Democrats' lives are so consumed by politics. It's like this. I feel, when Bush won, he feels like a grandparent died or something. It's like, why don't you get a fucking life other than politics? Why don't you get a life? And further down in the column, he writes, "It was also interesting to see how quickly Bush managed to disregard any true attempts at bipartisanship." Now, this always amazes me about Democrats. Why do Democrats think that when they lose, the winner should engage in bipartisanship? The winner should get with the Democrats and do what the Democrats wanted to do anyway. Whenever a Democrat wins, you don't see the Democrats going, well, we should engage now in bipartisanship. Why? We should work with the Republicans to implement the agendas the Republicans have. Why? Let's engage in some bipartisanship and see if we can make abortion illegal. I mean, Democrats never engage in bipartisanship. Now, don't get me wrong. I despise George Bush, but why the fuck should George Bush go up there and engage in bipartisanship? He won. He fucking won. He should do what he wants. Democrats don't seem to grasp this shit. This is because, of course, Democrats are socialist. They basically inherently do not understand the entire concept of winning and losing, because Democrats think that, only evil Republicans win, and that if everything was fair, nobody would ever win because nobody would ever lose because we would all be equal. I'm sorry, like it or not, Bush won the election. He doesn't have to fucking engage in bipartisanship. He doesn't have to be nice to the Democrats. Do what the fuck he wants. He is going to do what the fuck he wants. He's going to fuck things up because he's a fucking Republican. And that's what Republicans do, just like Democrats. Politicians in general, they fuck things up. I mean, people always amaze me. Well, no, my politician is different. You know what? Even libertarian politicians I don't trust, because anybody who wants to be a politician cannot be trusted. Being a politician is about having power over other human beings and forcing them to do what you think is right. Anybody who wants power over other people so that he or she can force other people to do what he or she wants them to do is an evil motherfucker who should be capped in the head. Okay? This is why all politicians, even libertarian politicians, are evil, slimy, filthy little fuckheads. So, sitting around expecting them to engage in bipartisanship just shows you're a fucking idiot. I have one other thing highlighted in his column. What does this say? Another notable aspect of the event was a joke the president repeatedly continued. I already know where he's going because I remember this. This is funny. See, this is another... This also reminds me of the fact that Democrats have no sense of humor. Anybody remember Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was running, and that one female reporter kept hounding him with a question? I don't even know what the question was or anything, but then Arnold tells her, I have a role for you in Terminator 4. And liberals and feminazis and Democrats and progressives who are just Democrats that are too stupid to know they're Democrats, all of these people got so pissed off and worked up. I'm looking at this, I'm going, what the fuck is wrong with you? First of all, that was funny. It's called a joke. But second of all, it's kind of... See, Democrats don't seem to understand the whole concept of male bonding, of ribbing people because you like them. The fact that Arnold joked with her like that indicates that, to me, this indicates some level of respect or affection or something. If somebody's up in my shit and they're just fucking with me, asking me some stupid question that I don't want to answer, whatever, I'm just going to ignore their ass unless I like them or something. So, the fact that Arnold... I am Arnold. Hold on. Arnold needs another drink of coffee. The fact that Arnold made this joke in the first place, to me, as somebody who doesn't have my head shoved up my ass and knows something about interpersonal relationships, indicates that he had some degree of rapport with this person in the first place. And on top of that, it was funny. And these people, they don't get it. They're so fucking lost. because you liberal Democrat communists out there are so fucking wound up on yourselves and how goddamn important you are to the world, and how, if everybody just did exactly what you told them to do, the world would be so much more perfect because, you're so much smarter and more compassionate and more wonderful than the rest of us are. So anyway, let me get back to the column. Another notable aspect of the event was a joke the president repeated continually when answering questions from members of the media. Quote, "Now that I have the will of the people at my back, I'm going to start enforcing the one-question rule." Quote. Bush has a reputation for disliking the media. How can anybody with a brain cell dislikes the media? And such humor coming from a guy who obviously lacks respect for the value of a free press is hardly funny. This is so sad. See, when you make a joke with the media, you lack respect for the value of the free press. Now, first of all, the press is not free. There is no free press for anybody unless they happen to own a press. I mean, I don't have free press. I can't print whatever I want in the newspaper because I don't have a newspaper. So here, George Bush made a joke. He lacks respect for the value of the free press. No, you lack a sense of humor, and you are overblowing your sense of self-importance. That's what's going on here. Holy crap, I have a lot of stuff highlighted in this issue. What is this? Oh, the aftermath. Members of Northern Colorado's progressive community. Now, it amazes me how often we use the word progressive when we should be using the word communist. These are some reactions from local idiots about George Bush winning the election. I've got some things highlighted here. They're obviously important, otherwise I wouldn't have highlighted them. Harith Yunus, I think that's how to pronounce the name. I'm not deliberately trying to insult the man here. I believe it is Harith Yunus, 30-year-old Fort Collins resident. Mr. Bush won, in quotation marks, the election even though he lied about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and exaggerated about the dangers of Iraq. Still, he was elected to be president. Mr. Bush claims to be against abortion, but is okay to kill 100,000 people in Iraq and kill or wound thousands of our own troops. Still, he was elected to be president. Well, let's see. Was John Kerry any less inconsistent in his beliefs? Let's see. John Kerry voted to invade Iraq. John Kerry at one point supported the lie about the weapons of mass destruction. John Kerry claims to be against homelessness, yet he has 3 mansions, a yacht, and an airplane, and there's no homeless people living in any of those. Greg Neese, Colorado Veterans for Peace. Any title of any organization that has peace in it, I just automatically don't like. Greg Neese writes, "While disappointed, I never expected Kerry to win, and am almost glad he didn't. He doesn't deserve to stick his thumb into the overflowing dikes of Iraq and our faltering economy. Let Bush and the neocons extricate themselves from the mess they created." Now, it's pretty bad when the people who support your election don't actually expect you to win. But what's interesting is this. He says, Kerry doesn't deserve to have to deal with the problems created by Bush and the neocons. Well, that's a great way of reframing your loss. Wasn't part of Kerry's entire campaign... Hold on. Wasn't part of Kerry's entire campaign the idea that we were supposed to elect Kerry because he had what it took to fix the problems created by Bush and the neocons? And yet here's this idiot saying, well, I'm glad Kerry didn't win, because why should he have to fix the problems created by Bush? Well, because that was what his campaign was all about, was fixing what was wrong with America, what is wrong with America, most of which he claims was created by Bush. Catherine Han Montoya from the Colorado Consumer Health Initiative. She is the Colorado Consumer Health Initiative Public Policy Director. Whew. She has to say this. Let me see what we're talking about here. I don't know. Additionally, CCHI would like to... Oh, the Colorado Consumer Health Initiative. That's what CCHI is. Additionally, CCHI would like to thank the people of Colorado for saying yes on Amendment 35 to reduce smoking. We're thrilled the voters recognized the importance of this effort to bring new money into the state's budget, improve health care for all Coloradoans, and keep kids from smoking. Notice the order of importance here. To bring money into the state's budget. That's the most important thing. Improving health care for all Coloradoans, as if that nebulous goal can be somehow quantified. And last but certainly least, keep kids from smoking. I didn't know kids were smoking in the first place. Colorado is on a serious anti-tobacco kick, for those of you who don't live here. Which is another one of those fascinating things. It's like, we love it when all the local breweries, like Left Hand Brewing and O'Doul's and all these other things, we love it when they make beer and when they sell the beer and pay taxes, but we don't like the liquor stores and the bars that sell their beer. And the same thing with tobacco. We hate the tobacco companies, but we love banning their product, and we love we love taxing their product when it gets sold. So we want Budweiser to make beer, but we don't want any liquor stores or bars to sell it. We don't want anybody to manufacture cigarettes. We don't want anybody to smoke cigarettes, but we want to raise taxes on cigarettes so the government can make more money. These people have no grasp of economics, common sense, anything else. It's stunning. Here we have, oh God, this is Madeline, Lecocq, Lecoq? I don't know. Madeline is the Weird Sisters editor and publisher. Weird Sisters is a local publication for whatever the politically correct term for homosexual women is this week. She writes about the election, I felt about as used as a discarded condom. Now, she's a homosexual woman. What the hell would she know about condoms? If you're a homosexual woman, what do you use a condom for? I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about condoms in general. Sitting around the dinner table, let's talk about condoms. She writes, but the final slap came from the exit polls. These people, see, and here's another problem with Democrats, their obsession with exit polls. Politicians in general, Democrats especially, are all obsessed with polls. You people need to stop paying attention to polls and what you think people think, because you're just trying to parrot what you think people think in order to get reelected. Try thinking for yourselves. She writes, but the final slap came from the exit polls. In larger than expected numbers, voters chose values, abortion, homosexuality, over other issues, and these voters chose Bush. Frustratingly, even voters who said they favored same-sex civil unions favored Bush over Kerry. One problem with democracy is tyranny of the majority. Again, look at the exit polls. White men voted 61% to 38% for Bush over Kerry. White women voted for Kerry by more than 10% margin. Non-white men and women voted for Kerry 68% to 30% and 75% to 24% respectively, and by a very large margin, 77% as compared with 23%. GLBT, which is the new buzz phrase for homosexual, citizens voted for Kerry. On November 2nd, the values of inclusiveness and equality, so dear to minority voters, failed, but only by a few ticks. Now, see, obviously this is not true. What we have here is a thing called lying. Let me explain to you why this is lying. White men voted 61% for Bush, yet we're told that white women voted for Kerry by more than 10% margin, blah, blah, blah. We're told that non-white men and women voted more so for Kerry, and that homosexuals voted more so for Kerry. Now, let's start with men and women. There are slightly more women than there are men. Now, you take out all the men who aren't white, and you add them to the women's group. Then you take out the homosexual men, you add them to the group. The group of women, homosexuals, and non-white men is obviously going to be much larger than the number of white men. So, if all of these other groups voted so incredibly overwhelming for Kerry, why the fuck didn't Kerry win? Well, because they didn't vote overwhelmingly for Kerry. Because these numbers that she's making up are based on exit polls. The exit polls are, of course, selectively applied by conducting them in places where you think you're going to get overwhelming responses for what you want to get a response for. That is, oh, we should have voted for Kerry, blah, blah, blah. The point being, because I'm going to cut out all the explanation, because if you can't figure it out on your own, you're stupid. The point being, you can't believe what you read in the exit polls. Next. What is next on the show? Ooh, this is an article on education. Education. This is the whining. See, apparently, Republicans have recently discovered that just as liberals have created laws on college campuses to stifle any opposition to their views, Republicans have suddenly discovered that, hey, we could try making laws to stifle opposition to our views also. And of course, this is pissing the Democrats off like you would not believe, because there's nothing a Democrat hates more than when you use their own tactics against them. SAF. I'm trying to look and find out what the SAF stands for. Student Action Fucker or something. Here we go. Students for Academic Freedom, IS, founded by David Horowitz. Let me read to you here, and then we'll see where this goes. SAF, the Students for Academic Freedom. SAF's mission statement instructs students to utilize county and state records to determine suspect professors' political party affiliations, then create spreadsheets to document their name, age, address, gender, department, and political party. Students are urged to focus mainly on professors in English, history, philosophy, economics, political science, and sociology departments, but select only one school of science to probe. SAF even lists the order in which the sciences should be scrutinized, beginning with engineering and ending with mathematics. Not a lot of communists in engineering, I can tell you that. Finally, the political backgrounds of administrators, provosts, deans, and admissions chairs should also be subject to the spotlight. When a professor exhibits signs of bias or one-sidedness, whether in lecturing, reading list suggestions, or promotion of extracurricular events, protests specifically are mentioned, Horowitz admonishes students to publish the details of the misdeed in a newsletter or pamphlet. In the event of a complaint, the SAF handbook encourages students to bypass traditional grievance procedures set in place by the university and instead go to the president of the university with a list of documented abuses, demand a redress of grievances, including an apology from the offending authority, and the promulgation of a what? And I love these words that I don't know. Promulgation. Now I cannot say this word this early in the morning. The implementation. See, I will replace this with a word that I can say at 6:20 in the morning. demand a redress of grievances, including an apology from the offending authority and the implementation of a policy to correct the abuse. Demand that the university administration adopt the Academic Bill of Rights as an official university code. If the university is unwilling to take corrective measures, notify the press, the public, alumni, and other students for academic freedom clubs throughout the other students for academic freedom clubs through www.studentsforacademicfreedom.org. Okay. First of all, let's ask ourselves this: why is the media so pissed off that this is happening? Well, they're pissed off because this is happening because this is exactly what Democrats have been doing. I mean, let's listen to this. Bypass the SAF is telling people to bypass traditional grievance procedures. Isn't this exactly what Democrats do every time they hold one of their little fucking protests? Or a little sit-in, or whatever the other kind of gay shit they do? What kills me here is, why do liberal Democrat professors think that somehow or another they should be beyond questioning, that their politics shouldn't come up? I mean, if you have some politician up there who says, let's put Jews in concentration camps, the liberals are going to say, why, we cannot allow this type. But yet when liberal Democrat professors have their belief systems, well, nobody's supposed to question that. They're supposed to be allowed to have them. I recently took this philosophy class last semester with this, commie pinko professor, utilitarian animal rights wacko, and he did a good job overall until, of course, he hit utilitarianism and animal rights, and then the fact that he had a PETA poster on his door became pretty clear as he's up there trying to make the case that animals are people and all this other shit. But why is it that liberals think that they should be allowed to have opinions and viewpoints that should never be questioned? Yet other people's opinions and viewpoints, it's okay to question them. And that's what this is all about. It's all about these people saying, you can't question my beliefs. Well, why the fuck not? What makes you so special that your beliefs cannot be questioned? And then this thing about, they're pissed off because people are determine suspect professors' political party affiliations and create spreadsheets. Why is it so? This always kills me about Democrats, too. Why are you so ashamed of your political party affiliation? Why are Democrats so terrified for people to find out that they vote Democrat? Ask a Republican, do you vote Republican? They'll tell you, hell yeah, I vote Republican, I'm proud of it. Now, they may be stupid, but, they don't have to hide the fact that they vote Republican. Why are Democrats always so terrified for anybody to find out that they vote Democrat? The answer, of course, is that Democrats are evil. They know they're evil, and they know they're wrong, and that's why they're ashamed for you to know that they're Democrats. Water break. Excuse me there. I know, my throat's kind of crappy this morning. I don't sound right, do I, on the recording? I can tell just by listening to the feedback here. Sorry, Randy and I were discussing technical issues. Let me read again. Who wrote this article? Anybody that I know? No? Okay. Some of these people who write, I know some of these people who write these things. They're idiots. Kurt, sorry. Kurt, you're my buddy, man. I like you. We can drink beer anytime, but politically, you're an idiot. Okay. Although that thing you sent, oh my god, I need to post a link to that. The movie that Kurt sent that link. Yeah. Walmart, fuck yeah. Starbucks, fuck yeah. Oh god, that was hilarious. Oh, I need to post a link to that on Stating the Obvious. I need to put that on the list. Movie link on STO. That was so funny. Alright. See, and this is the difference between a libertarian and a Democrat, is that I can have a sense of humor about things I disagree with. I don't necessarily agree with this little movie link that I got, but even though there are things in there I disagree with, and there are things in there I agree with, it's still funny as hell. See, this is what being intelligent and having a sense of humor can do for you. It can allow you to laugh at your own ideas. This is what Democrats lack. This is why Democrats get pissed off when somebody says, I have a role for you in Terminator 4. Or when somebody says, now that I've got the will of the people, I'm going to enforce the one question rule. The will of the people, it's like something The Rock would have. You know, the people's elbow, the people's eyebrow, the will of the people. If you can smell the will of the people. Alright, anyway, that has nothing to do with education. That's me having a good time. I read. At the hearing, what hearing? I don't know. There's a hearing. It doesn't matter. At the hearing, 3 students said they'd face discrimination because of their right-wing beliefs. CSU student Heather Schmidt accused sociology professor Stephen Himmerich of ridiculing President Bush and impugning former President Reagan. Schmidt is an Army veteran and her husband was stationed in Iraq at the time. Himmerich left the unit. I'm not really sure how to pronounce this guy's name. I'm not trying to make fun of him. Helmerichs, I think, is correct. Helmerichs left the university and has since received harassing phone calls and death threats regarding the incident. He declined to speak to the Bullhorn on the record without first consulting his attorney. Mario Nicholas, a law student at the University of Colorado, said a professor told his class that the R in Republican stands for racist, and then labeled Nicholas a Nazi when he complained. And William Pierce, a young Republican at Metro State, charged that Professor Anita Marento has accused him of joining her class for the sole purpose of spying on her to gather dirt. Now let's look at this both ways. First of all, are people with right-wing beliefs ridiculed and oppressed in college environments? Probably so. I've been lucky in my classes. I have not encountered... What are you doing? Oh my god, has it really been... Boy, I have talked a lot and gotten nowhere. Alright, Randy's playing the music. That means we're out here. We are sticking to time links on these, but we will be back. This means also that what time is it? Yes, it is 6:30. It's time for me to go do my run for the morning. Randy's going to go get breakfast. We will be back. We will continue. We'll be picking up where this left off. See you then.